Start recording. All right, so this interview is Hannah Brooks titled All Paths Lead Back to the Press. So first, I want to ask you, what year are you and what is your concentration and how long have you been at Georgia State?
Okay, so I am a senior at Georgia State. I graduate in spring of 21. Super exciting. I'm a printmaking major, and I've been at Georgia State since 2014.
Okay,
So, what, math, that's like 6 years or so.
so how many have you attended other colleges, and also what has been your major before? Because I know we've discussed that you've switched majors before.
I had a one weird semester where they thought I didn't go to Georgia State. That's a story for another day. So I went to Perimeter for a semester
Mhm.
when it was still technically Georgia State. It was weird. But my official like major changes. I was an English major for a long bit. That was right before becoming art again. I was anthropology for a while. And I feel like there's another one that I'm missing. I was going to go into music education, but that ended up didn't really happening. But I took a bunch of prerequisite classes.
Okay, I did not know about the music education. That's really interesting. So, what prompted the change of majors? Did you do art in high school at all?
The more of a fun part about Georgia State is my first semester in 2014, like very first number one, I actually was an art major. I was at the very beginning. I'm like, I'm gonna do this, but then my parents weren't really feeling it, and I wasn't super adapting well to college. So it was really stressful. So I ended up withdrawing from all of my art classes that first semester. And I'm like, this maybe isn't for me. And I started going on. But yes, in high school, I had like the intro to art class my freshman year. Then I did a bunch of music for a while. And then in my senior year, I took an actual drawing and painting class that I really love.
Yeah, that's usually how it goes. I I understand completely the parental pressure a little bit, because definitely during my freshman year, my family were like, "Do you want to do this? It's not too late to change," But I'm really glad that you found your path. So I have to ask, why specifically printmaking?
It's, there's always a fun story, I feel, with my path. Because at the very beginning, and then when I changed again in December 2017, decided to become an art major, I was actually focusing on textiles. And I've had a very close relationship with textiles and sewing since I was a little girl. So I thought that would be the automatic fit. But it always happens is like you have that one professor in my drawing one class. I was like pretty good at drawing. And she was like, have you decided, like, have you thought about like maybe being like drawing and painting or something? And I'm like, no, but okay, sure. So I decided to kind of move that general route. Then I just kind of fell into printmaking after taking intro to printmaking. I was kind of indoctrinated, as they say, into the print lab.
Yeah,
They're like, when you go into the print lab and you want to be a printmaker, and like, this all makes sense because I really didn't understand how I fit in drawing and painting yet at that moment. I'm like, I don't really paint, but I don't want to just draw. So I feel like this was the perfect place.
that's wonderful, because printmaking is such a niche concentration, specifically in our school. I wanted to touch on a little bit more of what you are specifically exploring in printmaking.
Wow, I've been kind of all over the place with printmaking, especially this semester.
Uh,
Previously, I've been very much into monoprinting, the painting for printmakers, just because of
yeah,
how automatic it is. And you don't really know how it's going to turn out. And then the different layering of imagery components is really great. There's so many different techniques to implicate. But then this semester, I'm in a relief class in advanced etching. So it's kind of thrown me for a loop. I'm like, do I really like relief? So I felt okay about etching, but now I'm like, I think I really like doing relief. So it's been a weird shift trying to find how I fit in different printmaking principles this semester. I
Mhm.
made a really awesome aqua tent in the lab last night. That's like my first time back in the lab this semester. And it was
Oh,
super cool. It was awesome. It was great.
yeah, because I wanted to touch on specifically, because first, I took that printmaking class. Doing it in the studio and doing it in the lab in itself is already complicated when you're new to the medium. There's a lot of different components, there's a lot of different things that you have to do. So, can you walk me through a process of doing printmaking at home?
Yeah, absolutely. I'll talk about because this summer I was in a directed study with monoprinting alongside Stephanie Colby's intro to printmaking class.
Mhm.
So it's kind of we were all working through doing the stuff together. So a typical day for me is I would have to go soak my BFK reeds in my bathtub.
Wow.
So I'm like tearing down paper and soaking them in my bathtub. And the blotting towels I have like set up on my dryer next to my bathroom. And some of my towels are like really frizzy, so I have to like figure out how much blood I want them to be. Because a big difference is when you're hand printing, you want your paper basically like almost too wet.
Oh, okay.
Because
Because you
the
don't have
biggest
that extra
difference,
pressure. Yeah.
yes, exactly, to push the paper into that ink and make that connection. And
Wow.
also at home, especially Stephanie Colby and I, we've been working with acrylic inks, which are soy based. So not only
Okay.
am I learning how to print at home, I'm also using new inks that I don't know really how they work. It's completely different from oil.
Soy based. That's really
Yes.
interesting.
Yeah,
That's
they're
super
amazing.
interesting.
It's
Wow.
the
I
best part
didn't
about
even-
using them at home is the acrylic inks have all these additives. You can do so many different things with them.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a very, very different process.
Yeah, I didn't even know that this was possible to do at home. I saw on your Instagram and other social media that you were getting it done. I'm very impressed. And I'm very impressed with all the printmaking students I'm seeing right now during this time. Um, and the community that you're in, the printmaking community is small and it's so supportive. How has being in this community benefited you?
Well, it's really benefited me because we have to work together to figure out what is going to work at home. We have to share, like, hey, like, I'm getting this weird speckling on my paper. I don't know what's going on. Can someone help me? So we have to work together. And I've been trying to help intro students by doing some demos online for Stephanie. So I have a trace monotype demo on YouTube. You guys can check it out. It has like 5 views, but it's really good.
I bet it is. I think it's wonderful that you're able to still be part of this community and continue to help each other. I remember, was it last semester doing the print sale, having our work shown. That was fantastic. For I think that the printmaking community at Georgia State needs to be highlighted a lot more because you guys are doing
Mm-hmm.
fantastic stuff all the time. So, but I wanted to ask you about your journey. 6 years, you were English, anthropology, which is really interesting that I actually want to ask you about. Why anthropology? Because I know that you did a little bit of musical stuff in high school, but why anthropology?
Well, it's kind of the age old, if I don't really know what to do, kind of do what your parents do. My dad was an anthropology major, even at Georgia State back in like the 80s. But he's a chiropractor now, so it doesn't really affect what he does. But yeah, being an anthropology major is actually super interesting. I really
Yeah.
enjoyed my class I took.
And how do you think what, in reflection of your path, what would you do different? Would you, keep everything the same, or would you continue this journey? Because one thing that I think that is really admirable about your story, and you're not alone in this, kind of finding yourself, right? You've done so many different things. You've put your hand into so many different things, and you've found a community that is really yours, something that you truly want to do. So I'm just wondering about what, in reflection, what do you think about your journey at Georgia State?
It was funny. Someone was asking me about the exact same thing the other day. And the biggest thing is I wouldn't change how I withdrew from all my classes in the very beginning when I was an actual art major. I wouldn't change that because I don't think I was ready to make the work that I'm making now. It'd be completely different. And I don't know if I'd be worse if I'd stayed on that path. I don't know what I would have done, but I really enjoyed what I'm doing now. And I think I appreciate it more that I've been through all these different communities and like realizing how the different people interact in those communities. I really think the art department, like specifically printmaking, is kind of where I belong.
I can see that. So, what advice would you give to people who are entering college or who are trying to find themselves right now through college?
I think my biggest advice is take classes that seem like fun. Like, don't be worried about pigeonholing yourself into doing something that you think you want to do, but a lot of people don't explore. I know plenty of people who graduate with art degrees who are like, I just kind of did it because I did it in high school and I was good at it. I'm like, yeah, but there's no real passion there. People
Yeah.
find something they're actually passionate about. When they like figure out what they want to do for a good portion of their life, maybe.
Hmm.
I think that's really important.
Yeah, that's really important. That's the advice that I've heard from a lot of people, to dip your toe into a lot of things, because after college, when are we going to get that chance to do all of those things? And on that
Exactly.
note, I wanted to ask you, where do you see yourself in printmaking, and what's going to happen after Georgia State?
Okay. So right now I've been beefing up my portfolio to go to grad school.
Oh,
So I'm like really gung ho to go to grad school, not next fall. That is what's next, hopefully.
all right.
Because
At
at the end
Georgia
of the
State?
day, probably not, just because, Georgia State has a whole feeling of we want different people with new perspectives, which I entirely believe in myself. I feel
Hmm.
like I wouldn't get that diversity if I knew all the staff and knew what was going on all the time. Even though I
Yeah,
do love Georgia State printmaking, that lab is where has been a second home basically.
I know. I can understand that. Well, I just wanted to say thank you, and bringing light to, the unconventional path to learning. And I think that you have found yourself in a really interesting way. So I really appreciate your time.
Yeah, of course.
And is
I
there anything
love
else you want to touch
talking.
on?
I just think it's so important for people to learn things through like mentorship. I
Yeah,
see it and I can't help it that I want to bop around and look at everyone's stuff because that's what we do in the print lab. And they're,
yeah.
oh, cool. And they're like, have you thought about doing it this way? Or
Hmm.
maybe this way without people taking it offensively.
Hmm. I think I will say is that I've never felt such a sense of community, being other than being in that print lab or being around you guys, the printmakers. I think it's also because of the size that it is such a small group, but you guys are really there for each other and you all know each other. I think that's a really wonderful thing.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Yes.
So
The
anything else
exchange
you want
of
to touch
ideas.
on?
The exchange of ideas is just really important to me. Also, because I want to go into education,
Mm-hmm.
it's great just to have that community happening. And I want more community. I
Your work from, what is it called? Drawing research
Yes, it is.
with, I
It
did not
definitely
know it
is.
was that big.
Yeah,
It's
no, it's
beautiful.
like what 22 by 40, something like that.
Whoa.
Yes,
So
yes,
you have like a designated studio space now?
I do. I do. Let me see if I can show you. It's like I'm in the kitchen because there's a banjos here. Let's go on a trip in my house. I share it with Matthew, but he doesn't really work because he's doing a bunch of stuff.
Mhm.
So here are a bunch of prints that I have hanging up to dry.
Oh my gosh.
A ton. So they're there. This is my
Wow.
little desk area.
It's
My little desk
beautiful.
area. Okay, wait. These are the occupants. This is the occupant proof I pulled yesterday.
Mhm. Oh my God. Hannah, that's beautiful.
I'm like really impressed. This is literally the first proof I pulled it. I'm like, hello. It is
I know
awesome.
I have a feeling that like
Next,
you've
please.
been back in the lab and you're like, this is the time to show my shit.